And good night, everybody, and welcome once again to another Lime Vibe Live podcast. I'm your host, Yuri Araman Camp, here from the beautiful islands of the Bahamas. And it's a Friday night, October 25th. We're going to soon have the time change. That's going to happen November 3rd, from what I understand. But we're starting off earlier because as the time change is going to get a lot darker in the night. So we're going to start off an hour earlier. And we normally start off at 8:30, sorry. So we're going to start off at 7:30 now. We're getting used to the process now, starting off at 7:30 now before the time really changes. So I thank you once again for joining me for another Lime Vibe Live podcast. Please, if you have not done so, please like, share, and subscribe to our Facebook, YouTube, and Twitch page. That's Lime Vibe 77. That's Lime Vibe 77 on Facebook, YouTube, and Twitch. That's Lime Vibe and the number 77 at Facebook, YouTube, or Twitch. Okay, let's get right into it, guys. We had a great week this week. We dealt with Hurricane Oscar this week. It flew through, and it made landfall on Anagua, our southernmost island, Anagua, on Sunday last week Sunday. No, Sunday that's gone, right? And it went on its way to Cuba, and it left some minor damages, but it left power off straight across Cuba. And in Anagua, our southernmost island, it left roads flooded, and people couldn't even pass. And the Morton Salt Plant, the largest salt plant down there in Morton Salt, down in Anagua, it was inoperable. The power was off. And I think the power is still off at the plant. And workers haven't been able to get back to work because the roads were flooded. Up to this day, roads are still flooded. People can't pass through. And they were expecting more rain to happen because they were expecting Hurricane Oscar to circle back around from Cuba. So it went from Anagua down to Cuba and was supposed to head back up again to the northeast and back towards Anagua. Man, my goodness. This weather is getting really, really tricky, man. So it's doing a circle. It wanted to threaten like how Dorian threatened Abaco and Grand Bahama in 2019, where I just hovered over Abaco and Grand Bahama in 2019, but I think it's off to the sea right now, and Hurricane Oscar is dissipating now. I think it's down to tropical storm now, so there's nothing really to worry about Hurricane Oscar anymore. But yeah, it left a lot of damage. Not a lot of damage, but left a lot of things, up in the air. Knocked off power in Cuba for several days, and had the roads blocked with flooding for several days in Managua. And her rescue workers are now working on both islands, both Cuba and both Managua, trying to get people back up in order. So yeah, it was crippling. It was crippling, man. Crippling effect. But everyone's safe. Nobody died, from what I understand. That's good news. Nobody was killed in Hurricane Oscar. That's always a good news. Yeah, people were dying in Hurricane Milton in Florida, but nobody died, thank God. And we also have another story out of Colombia. Apparently, there's this AGC criminal group that poses a serious threat to the peace negotiations in Colombia. We don't normally talk about Colombia a lot, but they're still part of the Central American and Caribbean region. They're a lot like us. And according to a recent report, is raising concerns that the group lacks genuine interest in peace and may use the talk period with them and between them and the government to actually solidify their criminal clout. The non-profit organization Fundación Ideas para la Paz, the FIP, published a report on October 7th about the Gatanes Self-Defense Forces of Colombia, also known as the ACG, and they will outline the group's growth over the past decade, working with the government of Colombia, the various different administrations in Colombia, and they're wanting more clout. Okay, the ACG, the Auto Defenses Gatanistas, Auto Defenses Gatanistas de Colombia, the AGC, sorry, those are the Gaitanistas Clan de Golfo. I'm not a Spanish speaker at all. Sorry if I butchered that. I'm trying my best. Now I see why announcers, they have to pronounce these things very much carefully, very carefully, I would say. It says complicates the peace prospects, the peace talks in Colombia. Because Colombia still has these various groups that are still vying for power. They spin off from the old drug cartels and the former socialist revolution that they had in Colombia some 40, 50 years ago. And they're still now trying to fight for power, even though Colombia is clearly going towards democracy now, but they're still, wanting more talks. And they're still wanting more seat at the table in the Colombian government. So we just have to watch and see how that goes for a while. Hopefully it doesn't run into full-scale murder for hire and murders and drug trafficking, like what they're prone to do, but that's not stereotype Colombia. There's another report from the ECLAC, the Economic Commission for Latin America and the Caribbean, and they did a joint report with the Pan American Health Organization, saying that post-pandemic there remain significant structural weaknesses marked by chronic underfunding in the regional healthcare system. They say there's some structural weaknesses inside the healthcare system around the region, Latin America, most particularly Caribbean and Central America. That's what we deal with. The report titled "The Urgency of Investing in Health Systems in Latin America and the Caribbean to Reduce Inequality and Achieve Sustainable Development Goals" said, I quote, "The health systems of Latin America and the Caribbean countries have significant structural weaknesses marked by chronic underfunding coupled with high out-of-pocket costs, fragmentation in the provision of services, and segmentation of patients according to their ability to pay. There are also challenges linked to institutional capacity and governance that limit their ability to respond to public health challenges. This has resulted in deep inequalities that compromise universal access to health and well-being, as well as financial protections for households." That's quite a mouthful right there from that report. Yeah, it's quite a mouthful from that report. This is essentially what it's saying is that the universal healthcare is not universal anywhere in this region, right? And people still have to pay. And this is this overall push for universal healthcare from ECLAC. And I think it's a worthy goal, but it has to work in the context of the insurance industry. You can't, cut businesses to the knees like that. You have to incorporate insurance companies along with universal healthcare. Just can't say universal healthcare have to be a government system, because we know how governments run things, right? That'll end up being a hotbed of theft and corruption. And we know it. Don't pretend like we don't know what it is. A little bit of entertainment news now. The rapper Little Durk, he's been arrested today on charges of murder conspiracy charge with several other individuals. Apparently, he is being charged with a conspiracy to hit and kill a rapper in Los Angeles several years ago called Quando Rondo. And apparently, he hired some shooters to go there and kill Quando Rondo, but they didn't kill Quando Rondo. They shot at him, but they killed his cousin, Lil Pap. So Lil Pap was killed. And so now they picked up Lil Durk, All My Life. Now, that song right there with J. Cole? Yeah, they picked him up. The Chicago rapper is now in custody now, facing charges for murder conspiracy for the killing of Lil Pap. These guys are just wild. These young men just doing all this stuff. Let's go to a video of his arrest. Let's go to right now what they did with him. And let's go to the story. Let's see what's happening here. All my life, they're trying to get me down. They're trying to take me down. But Lil Durk is a troublesome guy anyway, man. He's from that Chicago drill rap air scene. And there's some. I was into Rondo Number 9's music. He's another Chicago rapper. Man, I was wondering what these guys really singing about, man. These guys are absolutely insane. They're psychopaths, man. They make you believe all this stuff that's happening with them, man. It's crazy, man. It's ridiculous. There's murder for hire. Let's go right here. Oh, shoot. I don't have the video queued up. I'm sorry, gentlemen. I'm sorry, ladies and gentlemen. Let's organize this a bit better here. Oh, no. Sorry. Oh, I don't actually have the video. Yeah, Lil Durk arrested. Yeah, I have the video. Let's look again. Line by podcast. Sorry, guys. I thought I had this lined up. I didn't. Details. All my life, they're trying to get me down. They're trying to dig me down all this time. All my life. All right, let's go to newscast now. Let's go. Quick play.
Hey, Terrell and Tanya. Chicago-born rapper Lil Durk appeared before a federal judge in Florida this morning. He was arrested there Thursday in a murder-for-hire plot. Coming off his first Grammy win earlier this year, Chicago-bred rapper Lil Durk is now facing charges in connection to a murder-for-hire plot. The 32-year-old was born Dirk Banks. U.S. Marshals took Banks into custody on Thursday in Broward County. Banks appeared in federal bond court this morning. Now, details about the rapper's arrest or charges have not been released. 5 members of Dirk's Only the Family group, also known as OTF, were indicted by a California grand jury this week on charges of conspiracy to commit murder for hire. Banks' arrest comes just weeks after he was named in a lawsuit which alleges the rapper had a hand in a 2020 gang-related deadly shooting of a Chicago rapper, FBG Duck, born Carlton Weekly. Weekly was killed in the Gold Coast neighborhood by a group of masked men as he waited to enter a high-end store. 6 purported gang members were convicted of carrying out Weekly's murder. Weekly's mother spoke with ABC7's Karen Jordan after filing the lawsuit.
Not a day goes by that I don't think about him and the life that was taken from him.
Now, Lil Durk and his team did not comment on that lawsuit. We'll be sure to update you when we learn more about the charges the rapper is now facing.
Watch breaking news on YouTube. Subscribe to ABC7 Chicago.
Yeah, that was a separate lawsuit that FBG Duck, another rapper from Chicago, his mother filed on his behalf. As we all know, FBG Duck was killed 3 years ago in the Chicago Gold Coast. He was buying high-end jewelry and luxury items as he was gunned down in the Gold Coast area. And so, yeah, he didn't want to move out of Chicago, and he was warned several times to move out of Chicago, but he didn't want to move, And that's the shame, FBG Duck had to be killed in his own city. But with that, the charges are related to Quando Rondo, though. It was another assassination attempt, murder for hire plot that Durk was involved in. And so all these things are coming together now. All these things now, you can't do this wrong and then get away with it, It is what it is. So now Lil Durk is arrested now. You just won a Grammy Award too, and you still out here doing foolishness. You're still out here doing nonsense. You just won a Grammy. Come on, man. Get serious, man. Get serious. But these guys, these American fellas, they live this life. They do this stupidness every now and then, and they have no leadership, no guidance, man. I've watched the African American culture that's going decline after years of decline. And we want to blame rap music, but it's not really the rap music. It's the culture itself. And they have to come to grips with how they're going to, raise their young men, young women. I see now the young women are just as bad now. And the music is only a reflection of what actually happens in those cities. And it's really a toxic environment. Black culture never was like that. Gone are the days of Martin Luther King and even Jesse Jackson. We lost the way. And now they're killing each other right, left, and center. What can you say, man? But speaking of black culture, African American culture, let's talk about black culture and the slavery reparations that apparently the United Kingdom's Prime Minister Keir Starmer said we're not going to get. So yeah, Keir Starmer was over there with the Caribbean Heads of Government meeting in Samoa 2024, and he's over there along with King Charles. And Caribbean leaders have asked directly about slavery reparations, and Keir Starmer, the British Prime Minister, said no. Let's go to BBC, a report about that.
The BBC has learned that Commonwealth leaders are preparing to defy the UK at their summit in Samoa by agreeing to examine ways of securing reparatory justice for the transatlantic slave trade. The British Prime Minister, Sir Keir Starmer, is now there in Apia for the summit. Reparations could cost the UK billions of dollars. On Wednesday, Sir Keir said that there was no question that slavery was abhorrent, but he wanted the meeting on the Pacific island to focus on the here and now. Downing Street had previously said that reparations would not be on the agenda for the meeting. King Charles and Queen Camilla are present for the Commonwealth Heads of Government meeting. They will complete a day of engagements before meeting with Commonwealth leaders at the end of the week. Well, let's hear from the Foreign Minister of the Bahamas, Frederick Mitchell, who says the time has come to talk about reparations.
I think at the moment, CARICOM countries want the conversation to start about it. There appears to be even a reluctance to have the conversation start. Many of the institutions in the UK have already conceded the point of apology. The British government isn't quite there. But at this time, the discussion needs to be had about the history of this and the ill effects of what happened after slavery was abolished, which continue to affect our societies today.
Our political editor, Chris Mason, has gathered the thoughts of Sir Keir when he was on the way to Samoa.
The British Prime Minister emphasising to us on the plane here, the 28-hour journey from the UK, that as far as the conversation about reparations was concerned, he felt that it was too backward-looking. He didn't want conversations to get bogged down over it, and instead he wanted to focus on the future around trade and climate change, for instance. But now, courtesy of this leak to our colleague James Landale, the BBC's diplomatic correspondent, we have seen a draft communique, that is summit speak for the draft conclusions of an event like this, in which there is a specific reference in a couple of paragraphs to a desire from some Commonwealth countries, as you say, not least those in the Caribbean, for a conversation to properly begin about the question of reparations and the suggestions that some countries, the UK among them, owe, so goes the argument, a debt to countries that feel they were disproportionately enslaved, and that there should be apologies for it, and there should be financial compensation for it. As far as the UK is concerned, there is no desire to express any apology or indeed to allocate any money. But it does look like it will come up in the conversation here, even if it isn't on the formal agenda.
Well, let's speak now to Professor Robert Beckford, who is a Professor of Climate and Social Justice at the University of Winchester. He has written and studied extensively on the subject. Very good to have you with us as they obviously start to debate this in Samoa at this meeting, Robert. I wonder if you could explain to us if what some of these Caribbean nations are particularly calling for is reparations that are financial, or are they also looking for some kind of reparatory justice?
Yeah, that's a good way to start. There's a nuance between reparations and reparatory justice. Best way to explain it is to think of reparations as a more legal process, focusing on proving that an injustice has taken place and then using legal measures as a way of redress. In contrast, Reparatory justice is much more spiritual, for want of a better word. It's not punitive in its outcome. Instead, it seeks reconciliation. And how you get there is quite interesting, because it does involve things like truth and reconciliation, restitution, but also there has to be a conversation about compensation. So two slightly different but related concepts.
And it's a conversation that all sides obviously need to be party to. So there has to be engagement from everyone. But who should lead the process?
Oh, that's quite clear. In any form of reparatory justice or even reparation, it has to be victim-led. Those who are the descendants of enslaved Africans, in this case, have to frame the discussion. The perpetrators can't lead. You know, perpetrator justice is really mafia justice. It's the wrong way to be looking at this. So they are within their rights, within the legal structures of international law, within the moral structures of reparatory justice, to be raising these questions.
A UN Judge, Patrick Robinson, concluded last year that the UK owed more than £18 trillion in reparations for its historic involvement in slavery in 14 different countries. So we're talking about massive figures. Do most people involved in the process want to see it start with a talk about financial reparation?
No, because that's not the way in which you do reparations or reparatory justice. They all begin with truth seeking. And that's why I was happy to hear Keir Starmer gesturing towards the need to engage in research around this. You have to make sure that the nation understands what slavery actually entailed. Look, we don't teach it in schools. Most people couldn't tell you the difference between Marcus Garvey and Marcus Rashford when it comes to Caribbean history. So it begins with understanding what took place and then moving on to asking the fundamental question, how do we heal the wounds? And that's at the core of both reparations and reparatory justice. How do we bring about healing and reconciliation?
What about Sir Keir, though, saying that he wants this now, the discussions in Samoa, to be about facing forward rather than having what he called a very long, endless discussion about reparations on the past?
He's got a faulty historiography and cosmology, or a limited one, let's say. And what I mean by that is, in many cultures, especially the people he's going to speak to, the past, the present and the future are intimately interrelated. So it's impossible in African and African Caribbean cultures to talk about the present and the future without reflecting on the past. It's just a different way of imagining how the world works. So I would say he needs to basically become a bit more culturally sensitive and understand that people understand the past in completely different ways to the way in which he understands it. And look, history is something we do fantastically well in this country. We're always looking backwards in order to understand the present. So Keir just needs to be a little bit more egalitarian, afford the Caribbean nations the historical luxury which we indulge ourselves in this country. We love the past and looking at how it impacts the future. They're just asking to be treated the same way.
Professor Beckford, very good to get your thoughts. Thank you so much for joining us.
Well, there you have it. You know, a bunch of waffle and talk, huh? You want to talk about reparatory justice. You know, my feelings on reparations is that while I acknowledge where we've come from with regard to slavery, I really acknowledge that, and I see the damages that historic slavery has done to the Caribbean, I'm not one that's going to jump and give money to Caribbean nations as a result of slavery. I think that's what most people would think that reparations mean, but I think that money will be, wasted, to be honest with you, to be totally frank with you. A lot of these Caribbean countries, the Bahamas included, they're not equipped to manage any significant inflow of money to that extent. They can't manage what they have now. Look at the Bahamas. They threw an entire investor out of the country, and they kicked them aside for the Chinese, and look at them. You know, they don't know how to do business. They're not to be trusted to any great extent, from what I've seen. And to just give them money carte blanche, it would be a fool. You'll just have to come back and bail them out again. And after the reparations money is gone, what's going to happen then? You're going to be in the very same problem. If they were to give each Caribbean island right now $1 billion apiece, I say within 5 years, they'll be right back asking for money again, or have some other problem again, and crying again. Now, we know it. So I just want to put that on the table there. And I think that if there's going to be reparations, any significant money or wealth, it should go to an institution like the University of the West Indies. Or it should go to a non-profit regional organization that can receive the money and do something with it, do some development work with it, to the development agencies like the Caribbean Development Bank. That's where the money should go, not to any individual government. Absolutely not. You're begging for problems. Trust me, you're begging for problems. I don't care what argument they give you. They're going to fret that away. They're going to waste that money. That's how I feel. And not to say that we don't deserve some acknowledgement for reparations. We deserve some acknowledgement for what we've gone through as slaves, descendants of slaves, and being in a country that had slavery on its book as legal. However, to go and give now money carte blanche to some of these governments is foolhardy. And we need to have a wider discussion. We need to have a discussion on what is reparations and when does it start, when does it end. Because I can understand where the UK Prime Minister and the UK government and the other European governments are coming from, you know. You know, when we start talking about reparations, we need to have an end point of what we really want to have happen. Just can't be an open check to have these continual conversations about reparations and reparations. When does it stop? When do we draw for lines and say, hey, okay, this is where we need to stop right now with reparations? Or else they'll just be run. They'll never stop. It'll never stop. Trust me, it'll never stop. And so we need to have that discussion. And that needs to be a more focused discussion. Okay? How do we identify what reparations really is? Like I said, if you think it's money, I think it'll be wasted. So we need to have more reparations discussions on exactly what it is. To acknowledge it, that we were slaves and we are descendants of slaves, and you've left a damaging effect on some of these Caribbean islands. And also, how do we go about fixing some of these problems, systemic problems that come from the colonial period, that come from colonization, that come from slavery? That's what we need to do. There can't be no respect unless it's that. But, you know, in order to have justice, you must be able to do justice. And have equity, you must be able to do equity. And the Caribbean countries need to come out and be very frank and be very straightforward and say, hey, this is what we want from reparations, and this is what we think this is. And have a line. But don't come trying to, you know, come in trying to have these open-ended conversations with no definitive end point, no line point to where the discussion is going to be. Come on, no one's that stupid. I think people were born yesterday. So don't damage our efforts in getting reparations by acting stupid. All right? That's how. You want to have a meaningful conversation about reparations. Let's have a meaningful conversations about reparations. Define what it is and what we want and how long do we want it for, and then we can start from there. Otherwise, that is just a bunch of open-ended conversations. Like, you know, the foreign minister of the Bahamas, Fred said, they're open to having the conversations about reparations and exactly what does that mean. There was a study done last year sometime where people, you know, started to put their mind around exactly what reparations really is. And how do we start off with it, and what do we mean by reparations? And so, they need to go back to that study. It's right under the Caribbean Magazine Plus website. I got to go look for it. Sorry, I can't remember it off the top of my head. There's so many things going on in my life right now that I don't keep track on every single item. But it's there. A study was done. They tried to quantify exactly what reparations is and what people should really look for and what people should really expect from reparations. And I think that's a good starting point. Our last story tonight, apparently this Kamala Harris town hall meeting happened. And people aren't too excited about it. You know, she's going back, waffling back and forth with an answer, so they say. And so, it was a CNN town hall meeting. And I don't know what's going on with Sky News, but Sky News is just tearing into Kamala Harris, man. I have an analysis about the town hall meeting from Sky News right now. I'm going to play to you right now, but it's ridiculous, man. You know, everyone knows Kamala Harris is cooked. They know she's cooked. Let's go to this town hall meeting, the takeaways from the town hall meeting from Sky News. Let's go here.
Kamala Harris's streak of fumbled interviews and word salads continues after she bombed her CNN town hall with Anderson Cooper. The town hall was widely expected to be a softball interview, as has happened in the past. But Anderson Cooper did in fact-check the presidential nominee on occasion. Additionally, CNN hosts and panelists railed on Harris after the event, suggesting the network may be turning on her just 2 weeks out from the election. In true Kamala style, she served up a confused word salad about parenting, despite never having children.
Is there something you can point to in your life, political life or in your life in the last 4 years, that you think is a mistake that you have learned from?
I mean, I've made many mistakes, and they range from, you know, if you've ever parented a child, you know you make lots of mistakes too. In my role as vice president, I mean, I've probably worked very hard at making sure that I am well versed on issues, and I think that is very important. It's a mistake not to be well versed on an issue and feel compelled to answer a question.
Commentator Matt Walsh slammed Harris for her answer, saying, multiple times in this town hall, Kamala claimed that she raised and parented children. Her stepkids were 20 and 15 when she married into the family. She did not raise children. She has no idea what raising a child actually means or entails. And again, Kamala Harris gave a confused word salad answer when asked why she hadn't made any changes despite being in the White House for 4 years.
Some voters, though, might ask, you've been in the White House for 4 years, you were vice president, not the president, but why wasn't any of that done for the last 4 years?
Well, there was a lot that was done, but there's more to do, Anderson. And I'm pointing out things that need to be done, that haven't been done, but need to be done.
And on the issue of the border, Harris was fact-checked by Anderson Cooper after she attempted to blame Donald Trump for the border crisis again.
Under Donald Trump, you criticized the wall more than 50 times. You called it stupid, useless, and a medieval vanity project. Is a border wall stupid?
Well, let's talk about Donald Trump and that border wall. So remember, Donald Trump said Mexico would pay for it? Come on, they didn't. How much of that wall did he build? I think the last number I saw was about 2%. And then when it came time for him to do a photo op, you know where he did it? In the part of the wall that President Obama built.
But you're agreeing to a bill that would earmark $650 million to continue building that wall.
I pledge that I am going to bring forward that bipartisan bill to further strengthen and secure our border. Yes, I am. And I'm going to work across the aisle to pass a comprehensive bill that deals with a broken immigration system. I think Jackson's question, part of it was to acknowledge that America has always had migration, but there needs to be a legal process for it. People have to earn it. And that's the point that I think is the most important point that can be made, which is we need a president who is grounded in common sense and practical outcomes. Like, let's just fix this thing. Let's just fix it. Why is there any ideological perspective on it? Let's just fix the problem.
To fix the problem, you're doing this compromise bill. It does call for $650 million that was earmarked under Trump to actually still go to build the wall.
I am not afraid of good ideas where they occurred.
So you don't think it's stupid anymore?
I think what he did and how he did it did not make much sense because he actually didn't do much of anything. I just talked about that wall, right? We just talked about it. He didn't actually do much of anything.
But you do want to build some wall.
I want to strengthen our border.
Donald Trump then blasted her answer.
She said during that town hall she believes they've handled the border correctly. CNN pressed her on it. Would you have done anything different? Do you regret anything? And she said, quote, I think we did the right thing.
Wait a minute, that she's handled it correctly?
Correct.
She said that?
She said that. She said, quote, I think we did the right thing.
We allowed 21 million people in. We allowed 13,099 murderers. We allowed mental institutions from all over the world. If she said that, look, she's a grossly incompetent person. And if she said that, they had the worst border in history.
He also went on to publicly shame Kamala Harris's town hall during a rally in Tempe, Arizona.
She's so bad. I watched last night. I don't watch CNN often, it's fake news, but I watched last night. Oh, oops, the camera just went off. I watched last night, she did a town hall. Honestly, it was pathetic. It was pathetic. There's never been anything like that. We can't let it happen. We can't. That's why you have to get everyone saying how well we're doing. You still get out the people that have.
Did you see how Kamala Harris really waffled on the border question? She didn't say she was going to build the wall. She just said she's going to strengthen the border. I mean, that's just common deflection, man. You know, agreeing without agreeing. You know, that's just common media training, man. It's just ridiculous how politicians think they can still get away with that now. But anyway, let's go back to the video.
Voted, get out and vote. We can't take a chance. We can't take a chance on this disaster continuing because we won't have a country left if it does.
Surprisingly, both social media and mainstream media had similar reactions to the town hall, with even Kamala Harris's greatest allies slamming her performance.
Republicans would take another hour of Kamala Harris. We'd just press play, let her keep going. We'd pay for another hour to let her keep not answering the questions. I think Anderson's asking her, well, why haven't you done it? You've been there for 4 years. Why have you done any of this? And the word salad answer she gave to that was just mind-boggling. I mean, it's blown up the internet, her answer to that question. I think the things that are troubling for people were her responses to, Van said about what you're going to do to reduce costs when they asked her at the beginning. We're hurting economically. She said, I'm going to prosecute corporations. Right? That's not going to lower costs. How are you going to make things better for me? I'm going to prosecute people. Trump bad is not a message that's going to get her elected.
And even CNN's Jake Tapper and Dana Bash criticized her performance.
Focused a lot more on Donald Trump, I think it's fair to say, than she did on many specifics in terms of what she would do.
If her goal was to close the deal, they're not sure she did that.
Conservative commentator Piers Morgan also doubled down on the criticism, saying, I watched this whole town hall. It was terrible. Kamala just talks in endless word salad gibberish. When she loses, and she will, the Democrats are going to look so dumb for allowing her to coronate herself as a nominee without any proper contest. Another unsuccessful media appearance is the last thing Kamala Harris needs this close to the election, says Sky News host Liz Storer.
We all know Harris is failing in the polls. It is a painful death to watch, but that doesn't mean it isn't very, very entertaining. Her latest appearance on the campaign trail was a town hall meeting on CNN. She had a big go at Donald Trump because he decided not to come to this one, and she made a big deal out of that. Of course, he'd simply decided not to come because A, he doesn't need to. He's doing very handsomely in the polls without it, and B, CNN, not a friendly audience for the Trump campaign. You're not really going to win many CNN viewers over, are you? So he decided to save his time. She had the floor all to herself, and wasn't it entertaining? She literally took one question and took the opportunity to answer it by explaining why she wasn't going to be very quick or good at answering the questions, the whole purpose of a town hall.
So I may not be quick to have the answer as soon as you ask it about a specific policy issue sometimes, because I'm going to want to research it. I'm going to want to study it. I'm kind of a nerd sometimes, I confess.
Lady, nobody believes that you study anything. You don't even study your briefing notes. She was also asked, is she a religious person? Does she pray? And here was her answer just days after 2 guys were evicted from one of her rallies for shouting out, Jesus is Lord.
Do you pray every day?
I do pray every day. I do pray every day, sometimes twice a day.
Oh yeah, she's so devout.
The disastrous town hall comes only hours after Kamala Harris shocked voters and commentators by comparing Donald Trump to dictator Adolf Hitler, with former acting US Attorney General Matthew Whitaker saying this shows her desperation.
It just shows, that she's willing to take cheap political hits at Donald Trump. I mean, no one believes that Donald Trump is a fascist, because I tell you what, he was a president of the United States for 4 years and really took no action that would suggest that he wants to lead us to something like Mussolini's Italy. So, I think that is just a cheap political slur that Kamala Harris is trying to throw against President Trump in order to steal this election, but she's just not going to make it happen.
There you go. That's Sky News. They're all the way in Australia, and they're reporting on this madness about Kamala Harris. And I didn't watch the town hall, but I've watched some of the clips from it, and it wasn't as bad as what Sky News said. However, the word salad is really becoming really annoying for Kamala Harris, man. Really annoying. And it's clear she's unfit. And what Piers Morgan said in this clip just then, early on, was that the Democrats are going to kick themselves in the rear end for not allowing her to go through a proper primary contest, to win this nomination. They let her coronate herself. Now we're seeing why you should have these contests before, these primaries before you actually pick a candidate, because it preps you for things like this. It preps you for the next stage. And Kamala Harris did none of that. She did none of that. And you're seeing it right now play out. And why they're embarrassing themselves right now. We can't lead ourselves to this point where we start pre-selecting our leaders. And that's not what democracy is about. Actually, democracy was built because people were doing this, pre-coronating their leaders. You're all having a proper contest. You just can't anoint someone to be the president of the United States. It's not a country like the United States. Come on, man. I don't care how much optics you need, how much security minorities need to believe that you could have a black man as president. You don't need to do that. There's a serious contest for running the United States of America, the corporation that's the United States of America. You just can't waltz in there off of some bullshit vote. You see that, but they don't do any work. They don't do any work when they get it like that. They don't work hard. Anyway. I can go on and on about that, but let's leave it right there. So let's start from the top. Hurricane Oscar, it left Inagua in Cuba, our southernmost island Inagua, and Cuba crippled. Power was off in Cuba for several days, and the roads were flooded in Inagua. Couldn't get to the salt plant, Martin Salt Plant. So let's see how salt prices are going to be affected now moving forward. Yeah. And we also had, the Colombia AGC criminal group, the criminal group that's trying to broker peace with the Colombian government. They're called the Autodefensas Gaitanistas de Colombia, the AGC, also known as the Gaitanistas or Clan de Golfo. They've gone back and forth with the government now, trying to broker up peace. They're still a criminal organization, by the way, but they want to come into the forefront now. It's kind of like the FARC. They want to come out of the shadows now and be a part of the system. But analysts are saying that they don't want to be a part of the system. It's just a ruse to continue on their criminal enterprise. So we're going to watch that in Colombia as it moves forward. And we also had the ECLAC, the Economic Commission for Latin America and the Caribbean, along with the Pan American Health Organization, saying that there are structural weaknesses in the healthcare systems around the region. They're saying that post-pandemic, these issues are still plaguing the region, and it's marked by the urgency of investing in healthcare systems. Okay, we need to invest in healthcare systems significantly. And it has structural weaknesses marked by chronic underfunding coupled with high out-of-pocket costs and fragmentation of provision of services straight across the region. Okay, so we need to up our healthcare. We also talk about Lil Durk, the rapper Lil Durk. Okay, he was arrested for murder for hire charge of rapper called Quando Rondo. But they didn't get Quando Rondo. They got his cousin Lil Pap, who was also a rapper. So Lil Durk was picked up today for murder for hire with several other gentlemen in his murder for hire of Quando Rondo. Quando Rondo is still quite alive, still making music. And Quando Rondo was a guy who was involved in the King Von shooting, the King Von murder. The notorious rapper King Von. They call him a serial killer of Chirac. Chirac, that's what they call their own city Chirac. It's really Chicago. The Chicago rappers, Chicago beef. Yeah, so Lil Durk is now behind bars now, and he's waiting, for further charges on his murder for hire. He just won a Grammy with J. Cole for All My Life. He just won a Grammy just then. And he's just throwing away his life doing foolishness, doing foolish stuff like this. He's also being fingered with the murder of FBG Duck, another Chicago rapper who was killed on the Chicago Gold Coast, buying luxury items, and he was gunned down inside the rich, the posh area of Chicago. Anyway, we also had the Commonwealth Heads of Government meeting that's going on some more right now. It's been going on all week, and they had King Charles down there. And they also had several Caribbean nations that were approaching British Prime Minister Keir Starmer about reparations. And we heard from Frederick Mitchell, the Foreign Minister of the Bahamas, who said that they just want the conversations to start on reparations. They're not really asking for reparations right now. They just want the conversations to start on reparations. And I said that, we have to really identify what reparations really is. We just can't go in there with any random conversation and saying this is what we want. It has to have some kind of definitive starting point, ending point of what we want from reparations. Just can't have an open-ended conversation. We'll be talking all day about that. And I said, I don't think we should be giving money to these Caribbean countries. No, not these guys. These guys? You kidding me? Then we also talk about the Harris Town Hall debate and how Sky News in Australia just keeps going on Kamala Harris. They're not stopping at all. It's madness. I would hate to see what Fox News has to say about it, but Sky News is really going in on Harris, man. She's unfit. And it's clear she's unfit. So that's really where we are right now. So I just want to thank you guys for joining me for another Line Vibe Live podcast. If you have not done so, please like, share, and subscribe to our Facebook, YouTube, and Twitch page as Lion Vibe 77. That's Lion Vibe 77 on Facebook, YouTube, and Twitch. I'm your host, Yori Araman Kemp, here from the beautiful country of the Bahamas, signing off on this October 25th, Friday. I'll see you again next week, Friday, hopefully, with another Lion Vibe Live podcast. So please, here we out. Goodbye.
Lion Vibe.